Okay, let's get started. So for today, I'm going to give you a little bit of background over Cisco Umbrella for MSPs, and then we'll talk about some of the trends that we're seeing, including ransomware, which we've all heard about. And then I'll do a little bit of a deeper dive over Cisco Umbrella for MSPs, and as Taylor mentioned, we'll have some Q&A, but please feel free to type in questions in the chat as we go along. And I'm sure most of you know, but in case some of you haven't heard, we did switch our branding last November, and we switched from OpenDNS to Cisco Umbrella. So we're now called Cisco Umbrella. Cisco Umbrella for MSPs is our product here, and we protect over any port and protocol, and we prevent malware, we contain botnets, and we block phishing attempts. And so for our partners that use Cisco Umbrella, they experience some benefits, and one of them is decreased cost. Some of our partners have experienced a 50 to 80% reduction in malware cleanup time, which you can use some more time, right? As an MSP, they've increased revenue, and then they've also seen improved retention with improved customer uptime. And there's some valuable reports that we offer in the product that can help with that as well. So let's talk about some work trends. These are really applicable and important in terms of impacting security, in terms of what's happening in the workforce and how people are working. And so let's look through some of that. If you go back a few years and you think about IT, most, if not all, of the infrastructure and applications and desktops were behind the firewall. And in order to work, employees went to an office location and they logged on to the network. And if there were branch offices, because it was a larger organization, they would backhaul all their traffic to headquarters. And so when you think about security in terms of how people were working, from a security perspective, they were securing their perimeter and their endpoints. And by backhauling all the traffic from any branch locations, they were also getting the same security as corporations. But as you know, and as I know, it's a changing landscape. And in the last few years, the way we work has fundamentally changed a great deal. I'm not always going to the office to work. I might be remote or at a coffee shop. And so what has changed? A lot of it's become more off network. There are more roaming users than ever. And there's also applications that they're accessing that are in the cloud, such as Salesforce.com. And then not only are employees off network, they're not always accessing the VPN, which means they're not getting the kind of protection that they need. And you're also lacking visibility, right, if they're not accessing the VPN. And so just to put some numbers behind this, you've got around half the workforce that's mobile, and 82% admit to not using the VPN. I have done it. I'm sure all of you have done it. And there's been, in the next 2 years, there'll be a 70% increase in SaaS usage. There's already been a huge boom, and it's going to continue to increase. And that last stat there, branches, 70% of them report going directly to the internet instead of actually backhauling all their traffic. And so why does this matter to you and your clients? Well, your clients are changing the way they work, and it's creating new security challenges. And so while traditional network and web security is really necessary on the corporate network, it's unable to protect the roaming users and those that are connecting directly to the internet. And secondly, organizations, your clients, are having limited visibility and control in terms of their sensitive data because of all the apps that are being used in the cloud. And so security has to evolve to address today's challenges in terms of how your clients are working in the modern enterprise. So let's talk about some of the methods of attack in terms of how cyber attacks are happening, some of the most popular ones. So we've all heard about phishing. It's been around a really long time. And that is something that has actually gotten more sophisticated as the years have gone on. As you can see here, this resume is very much catered and it'll look like something that is responding to a job opportunity that you've posted. And so someone might be inclined to click on it. And malvertising is on the rise, which is another popular form of attack. Malvertising stands for malicious advertising. And that, in this case, an ad server is running, and you click on the ad, and then you get exposed and you get infected. And we've seen a lot of this. Here's one that actually just happened very recently. Mother's Day is coming up. And this one is actually kind of a combination of phishing and malvertising. There is this Lowe's ad that was posted on it's on a Facebook post, and if you click on the ad, it opens a survey, and that will collect your information. So it's kind of a malvertising style because it's an ad that's on Facebook, but then it's phishing in the sense that's collecting information from you if you do click on it and posting a survey. So Lowe's and there's other news articles out there that have been putting out information to warn everyone this is actually a scam. Droppers are also becoming increasingly popular, and they're especially a common option in terms of ransomware. What droppers do is they establish a foothold, and then they check back in at home. And so a bad actor will get a piece of malware on a computer, and the malware will just kind of sit quietly and wait, and it's not flashy or noisy. And then it'll basically, what the bad actor can do is they can sell or rent that ability to infect that computer. And then, you know, you can continue to rent it out and add more capacity over time. It's kind of a service. There's also exploit kits. Those are becoming very popular as well. And an exploit kit is a software kit, and it's designed to run on web servers. And the whole purpose of the exploit kit is to identify software vulnerabilities in a client machine. And then when you identify those vulnerabilities, you can then exploit them. And so the names that you see here are different exploit kits that are out there, such as Angler, Flashpack, Bleeding Life, and they can cost as little as $200. So it's not that expensive to necessarily get engaged in exploit kits. And these have definitely been an uptick. In 2016, there were around 702 million attempts to launch an exploit, and that's up about 24% from the previous year. So there's definitely seen an increase in these. So let's talk a little bit about ransomware. We talked about how Dropper is a common form of ransomware. The different ways of methods of attack we talked about, the phishing, the exploit kit, et cetera, are all ways to deliver ransomware. And ransomware can do damage in a lot of ways, like the malvertising, like we talked about. And this is kind of just, I won't go through this slide, but kind of shows the process in terms of how ransomware works. Malware evolves, right? That's one of the most difficult things about security and protection is that malware evolves. There are millions and millions of new malware variants that come into the threat landscape every year. And so ransomware has also evolved. It came into the threat landscape back in '83, which this timeline doesn't go back that far, but you can see since 2001 how much is involved and how many different variants there are of ransomware. And here's just some quick stats on ransomware, just to see how dominant it's been. There are at least 190 different variants of ransomware, and that's at least, that's a minimum. And there's 4,000, FBI estimated there's about 4,000 computers around the world that become infected with ransomware every hour. So that's 4,000 every hour, and that's just an estimate. That's not necessarily the exact figure. And they estimated that there was about 1 billion in losses in 2016 from ransomware, which is quite significant. So we talked about that there's different variants of ransomware. We looked at that evolution. I just want to go over one that has come to fruition recently. It's Cerber, the Cerber family of ransomware. And it accounted for about 90% of all ransomware in the first quarter of 2017. And I guess the benefit of this for cyber attackers is that anyone with just a small amount of technical knowledge can actually get their hands on this and use it. And it's not too expensive, and it's kind of sold as a franchise type malware where everyone gets involved, gets paid. So it's kind of, once a ransom is paid, everyone involved in the whole supply chain of this piece of ransomware gets paid a portion of that. And this one is actually, we talked about Dropper becoming common. This one's actually most commonly being sent through phishing emails. There's also ransomware as a service. If you'll notice with the Cerber family and also this one that I'm about to speak to, it's just becoming easier and easier for anyone to get involved in cyber attacks. Exploit kits, you can rent it out. The Cerber family, you saw that it's part of a supply chain. And then with ransomware as a service, it's also another way that those that are not as technically inclined can still engage in cyber attacks, which just makes it more easier for more people to be conducting cyber attacks. And so there's this Carmen that's being sold for only about $175. And you can see it offers a graphical depiction. And you see right there, the yellow box is how much that the person has earned in terms of ransom. And so you can kind of collect your earnings in real time. And you can see it's almost kind of this user-friendly interface that's showing how their cyber attacks are working. And so in terms of just the way, we talked about the work trends, right? People are working differently and they're working remote. And you see there's different methods of attack, and it's also becoming easier for cyber attackers to attack. And so it's really important to think about managing security in terms of layers. And so that's kind of how we look at Cisco Umbrella for MSPs. It's an important layer that's part of your email, antivirus, and firewall protection. So let's go full on Uber nerd and talk a little bit more deeper about Cisco Umbrella for MSPs. So this is our view of the internet, and the way we look at it is everything starts with data. You saw how many variants and how much malware evolved, and so it's really important to have a lot of data and be able to keep your security product up to date in terms of protection. And we see a lot of data. As you can see here, we have 100 billion requests per day with 85 million daily active users, over 12,000 enterprise customers, and we're in 160 plus countries. And so that gives us not only a massive amount of data, it also gives us a very unique set of data. And that can give us insight into things such as global request patterns. When was the first time we saw a domain? When was the last time? How many people are going to a certain site? And all of that can help influence how we're able to protect. So with all this data, we have a security researcher team, and they look through this data, they analyze it, and they also build intelligence and statistical models that are then used to help protect through the product. And so these statistical models basically predict which domains and IPs would be malicious before any other security vendor. And there's different examples of this. I'll go over one, which is our co-occurrence model. And basically, co-occurrence of domains means that a statistically significant number of identities have requested both domains consecutively in a short time frame. And so what you see here is C.com and D.com has been commonly requested in a very short time frame around X.com. And so that has an indicator that is potentially a known malicious domain. And so being able to kind of predict these type of patterns helps us to realize domains that could be malicious and block against those. In terms of our efficacy, we see there's 3 million new domains discovered daily, and there's 60,000 daily malicious destinations, and then there's just 7 million total malicious destinations that were enforced at any given time. Another example I can give you is with, there's 3 million new domains every day, and so we don't necessarily know automatically if those are malicious or those are safe domains. And so we have a security category that we've recently built called newly seen domains. And what that does is it gives the MSP customer, their clients, the flexibility to either automatically block those domains until it's determined whether they're malicious or safe, or to just kind of monitor those. And so it kind of gives the ability to determine risk tolerance based on what the needs are of the client. And as we talked about in the work trend section, everyone is working everywhere. And so it's important to have the visibility. Your users and apps have left the perimeter, so you have to have visibility across all activity everywhere. And so Cisco Umbrella for MSPs provides that visibility across all ports and protocols. This product was built for MSPs, and so we do have PSA integrations, AutoTask and ConnectWise. And we do have, as well, RMM deployment across different RMMs, and those scripts will deploy in minutes. That is the overview for Cisco Umbrella. Taylor, I'll give it back to you.
Cool, thanks, Monica. So let me get back to sharing my screen. Okay, Monica, can you see my screen?
I can, yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's get into, well, first of all, thank you, Monica, for sharing all that. So getting that view into the threat landscape and some of the pretty worrisome trends that are showing themselves in the industry, it's clear that the critical operations of your clients or their uptime is at stake. So with that being said, I actually want to return to this idea of layers of defense that Monica had touched on earlier. This idea that the solutions between outside threats and your clients almost need to mimic bulletproof glass, whereas rather than a thick single layer of protective glass, you have these multiple layers that work together to provide this impenetrable defense. So these first first layers Monica described can be considered your ransomware prevention solutions. And as she also showed, ransomware is getting so advanced that you need not only prevention, but ransomware recovery solutions in order to recover from an attack that should get through. So there are two primary types of solutions that will help your clients recover from a ransomware infection, and that's business-grade file sync and backup disaster and recovery. And for eFolder, that's where our Anchor and Replibit solutions come in. So Anchor is our business-grade file sync and collaboration solution, and it's designed specifically for MSPs and has a really rich feature set you would expect of a business-grade solution, such as secure sync and share capabilities, access to your files and folders anywhere from any device. It's HIPAA compliant, and so on. However, the reason I'm mentioning a file sync solution as part of a security webinar is because Anchor goes further than just file sync and share, and further than what the majority of consumer-grade services offer, but also what other business-grade services offer. So with Anchor, you have powerful backup and rollback capabilities that are built into the solution specifically to counter the types of attacks your clients can face on a daily basis. And so there are two main features of Anchor that I want to highlight in the context of this conversation. So revision rollback enables you to restore your files to a previous revision before a certain point in time. And so what this means is that should a client laptop, for example, get infected with ransomware, they would be able to go into Anchor and roll back entire folders to the latest revision that occurred before the infection took place. And so like Monica showed in her portion of the presentation, ransomware is anything but static. It is incredibly dynamic, and there are new, if you want to call them strains of it, that are showing up every year. And in many new forms of ransomware, the infection will actually delete, recreate, then change file names, thus affecting a file's revision history and preventing you from restoring to that previous revision. So how eFolder has solved for these forms of advanced ransomware attacks is through Anchor's snapshot feature. And the way snapshot works is that it allows administrators to clone a team share or a backup or a user's personal data with the option to only clone the data as it existed at a specific point in time. So this helps administrators recover client files no matter what has happened as part of their revision history. And it essentially lets you turn back time and recover things as they were before the ransomware attack took place. And so then I want to discuss briefly our BDR solution, Replibit, that solves that very last line of defense between your client's data and a ransomware attack. So Replibit is a BDR solution that is really best described as a business continuity platform for MSPs. It includes the software for the laptops or workstations and servers that you're backing up. It includes the local appliance that you can buy from eFolder. So we have 3 tiers of BDR appliances, or you can build your own. It includes the cloud replication and backup to store and recover the data either in the eFolder cloud, or if you have the infrastructure set up, you can actually store that data in your own cloud. And then you have just the global management capability to manage the entire platform from a single pane of glass. And so other features of Replibit are its chain-free backups. So a lot of image-based backup solutions on the market today rely on chain-based technology to do backups. And so what happens is that if there's ever a corruption or deletion of one of the recovery points in the chain, the backup chain is essentially rendered inoperable. So with Replibit, each backup is independent of the other, which is really important should anything compromise one of those subsequent backups. And then another key feature is automated testing and verification. So rather than putting labor towards constantly testing your backups, Replibit will actually do it for you automatically. We spoke with a partner recently who actually had a full-time person on his staff managing backups and the verification of backups. So this is really big from a cost and labor perspective. And then there's deep ConnectWise integration, meaning you can do things like monitor all of the deployed appliances and vaults that are being used, get backup status alerts, storage and utilization alerts, and many, many others. So now that we've hopefully provided some new or added insight into the overall security landscape, let's get into what you can do to get out there and start putting this knowledge to good use. So these are the 8 tactics that you can employ to position yourself as a security expert. So starting with the first, so your opportunity as an MSP is not just in being a reseller of IT solutions. You have a huge opportunity to become a knowledge center, in this case around security in your community. So which is why number one is really educate first and sell second. education should be one of your top priorities for prospects and current clients. And the context of this education shouldn't be, educating them on why your solution is better. It should really be about giving them the tools they need to be more well-versed and have an understanding of cybersecurity and how to protect themselves, frankly, with or without you. And so what will happen is that by showing your level of knowledge on the topic, you'll get prospects coming in and saying, we want you to bring this on for us and do this for us. So that's why it's super important to make sure everything you do is really education first, because the sale will come naturally afterward. And so our second tactic is make security education a core piece of your managed service offering. And this really builds on the first tactic of being very education first. But the difference here is that you can actually price and package your solutions to include security training and education. And this can really add a lot of qualitative value for clients and potentially set you apart from other MSPs in your area who are simply selling on the features of their solutions. And so as we've seen, security is constantly changing. There are new high-profile attacks that can take place, new variations of malware discovered, and so on. And a really good way to engage prospects and clients is by hosting monthly or quarterly security briefings at your office. And this is a great way to get prospects and clients in front of you rather than behind an email. If you have multiple offices or serve a wide area, you can even turn this into a part live, part web broadcast through a service like GoToWebinar, WebEx, anything like that. And this is something you can keep fairly simple. Focus on security trends and headlines at a high level, and then dig deeper through open discussions. And just really forming a cadence around that will have a big impact on the way your community views you as a security expert. And so many communities have business associations and local chambers that are always looking for guest speakers or someone to provide helpful insight to local business owners. And many of these groups hold regular meetings that give you the opportunity to really provide your security expertise. And so more often than not, the folks running these associations would be happy to have someone come on as a panelist or speaker. So it's a really great opportunity to build up your reputation in your community as a security expert. And so another thing you can do is host lunch and learns at local restaurants. Lunch and learns are pretty simple. You provide lunch for those attending and take them through security trends, highlights, best practices, your solutions and how they fit into all that. And this is one of the more expensive tactics on this list. However, if you have the extra funds, it can prove to be really successful for you and any new clients that you're bringing on. Both eFolder and Cisco Umbrella put on our own lunch and learns, and we do joint lunch and learns, and we found it to be a great way to drive new business. And I can only speak for the eFolder side, but here at eFolder, some of our most loyal partners are ones who we originally met through our lunch and learns. So they can not only be a great way to establish yourself as a security expert, but to really build key business relationships early on. And so for any business, large or small, blogging can have a huge impact. We have quite a few partners here at eFolder who blog regularly, and it's really enabled them to establish themselves as experts and educators in their area of focus, such as a particular vertical. If you're new to blogging and aren't really sure where to start, a great first blog could be 10 of the most frequently asked security questions. And you can simply take 10 of the security related questions you get asked the most and turn that into a blog. Another approach you could take is around a topic like ransomware and create 3 different blogs, one highlighting what ransomware is, one explaining its history and how it's evolved, and one profiling highly publicized ransomware attacks and what the victims of those attacks could have done differently to better protect themselves. And coming up with a regular blogging cadence will naturally draw people in and have them start to really rely on you for the security expertise you're exemplifying through these posts. And much like blogging, a monthly or even weekly, if you have enough content, newsletter is a great way to keep prospects and clients up to date with your security education. You can include links to past blog posts, information about your next on-site security briefing or lunch and learn, or really anything else you're doing in your community. The key really here is to make it useful to those who are reading it. So keep in mind pain points and frequently asked questions prospects and clients commonly present to you. And then number 8 is leverage your vendors. So while most of the tactics we just went over here are free, you can obviously really ramp up your sales and marketing with money. And the way one way at least you can leverage your vendors this way is by having them provide MDF or marketing development funds. And these funds are meant to help you offset some of the costs for your bigger budget sales and marketing efforts. So let's say you want to do a monthly lunch and learn instead of quarterly. This is a really great way to use that money. And with that, I hope you have found at least a few of these tactics to be something you'd be willing to try out yourself. Unless, Monica, you have anything you'd like to add, I think we can move on to Q&A.
Nope, Q&A sounds good.
Okay, perfect. So let me check the question log. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A log. I'll give everyone just a few minutes. Okay, so one question is on the point of MDF. So how do I get marketing development funds? So and I can just speak for eFolder, of course, but if you are an eFolder partner, you can reach out to your account manager and discuss the topic of marketing development funds, and they will kind of walk you through the process and how that all works. So I would definitely reach out to your account manager. And if you're unclear on who your account manager is at eFolder, definitely just shoot me an email at tjohnson@efolder.net, and I will help you find out. Okay, another question came in. Let me see. Okay, so the question here is, and Monica or Jason, this one would be for you. So we have folks on Umbrella currently that have hit a link in Outlook that takes them to a fake site asking for O365 credentials. Theoretically, shouldn't this get stopped before they get to that site?
This is Jason. Yes, if the URL has been, or the domain itself has been identified as a phishing or a malicious URL, then what will happen is when they click the link, they will get redirected to the block page you have configured.
Cool. Thank you, Jason. So another question is, does eFolder or Cisco Umbrella provide any brandable marketing materials for partners? So I'll answer this one for eFolder, and then Monica, if you want to jump in with Umbrella. So for eFolder, yes, we have a ton of brandable marketing materials, whether that's blogs, white papers, ebooks, email templates, product descriptions. Those can be found in what are called our partner playbooks. And if anyone here would like any more info on that, again, just reach out to me and I would be happy to provide some. And so, Monica, does Cisco Umbrella offer any sort of brandable marketing materials?
Yeah, we do actually. So for all our MSP partners, we have something called the Partner Enablement Pack. And our partners really enjoyed using that. You know, today I went over some of the more recent threat trends that we're seeing. And so with our Partner Enablement Pack, we keep that updated. As we all know, the threat landscape is changing constantly. And so we keep that updated with what's happening. And there's presentations, there's emails, there's blogs, there's a lot of content that MSP partners can access and can also use to educate their clients on security. And so that's available to anyone that's a partner with us.
Cool. And so this is an Umbrella specific question. So does Umbrella have a minimum seat use?
Jason, you want to take that one?
Can you repeat the question? I heard minimum and then I did not hear the rest of that, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So does Umbrella have a minimum seat use?
I believe the minimum is actually more on the sales side, but I believe the minimum is 100 seats for minimum buy into the Umbrella for MSP program.
Gotcha. Okay. Am I going to make this slide deck available? Yes, as well as the recording. And that's all I have for questions right now, unless anyone has any other questions they'd like to ask.
Taylor, if there's other questions on sales or pricing, we do have a mailer for Umbrella for MSPs. It's umbrella.msp-sales@cisco.com, and it was on the last slide of my deck, so it's accessible there. But that's a great place to get any sales type questions answered.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll include that in the email that will be sent out to everyone with the slides and the recording.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I think that is it for questions. So Monica and Jason, thank you so much for joining me. Everyone else who is listening, thank you for attending. And like I said, the slides and the recording will be sent out today. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Thank you, everyone.